Hello and welcome to yesterday's airlines. It's time to take a look at the latest announcements from NG models, which are going to be their October releases. And this set is pretty big. There are 40 models included here. NG have had quite an unusual year, let's be honest. They've been releasing much smaller sets, between 10 and 20 models most months, and this is the biggest set from NG since January. Now, the January set was an excellent set and made it look like things were going to get really good this year. That hasn't panned out, partly or largely because of tariffs, but there's definitely been a massive shift towards Chinese releases, focusing very much on the home market, which I guess is very much a safe bet from a financial perspective. This set continues that, but there is a reasonable amount of N-Reg models. In fact, people tend to joke nowadays that they could be called NB models because of the reg prefixes. In fact, in this set, there's only, I believe, one model from Europe and a couple of non-Chinese Asian models. So the majority of this is Chinese or American, and if you like Xiamen Airlines, your quid's in with this set. But what we're going to do, as always, is get through this and rank these releases with my opinion of how good or bad they're going to be. Before we do that, as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Thanks very much. Always appreciated. Also, don't forget, I'm on Instagram too at YesterdayAirlines and the website yesterdaysairlines.com. Don't forget also to check out the sponsor of the video, Northeast Diecast, who've got an amazing range of second-hand, mostly second-hand, some new stuff, models in both 200 and 400 scale. Some really, really good material on there, and I've been picking up the odd model from Northeast and got some really cool stuff. So check them out, and when you do, don't forget to use the code Yesterday'sAirlines15 for 15% off your order at Northeast Diecast. So don't forget to use the code and check out Northeast Diecast. But let's get on and see what NG are throwing our way next month. Okay, so as always, we're going to start with the Airbuses, move through the Boeings, and then catch whatever's left over at the end of the video. And we will begin with some A319s, and the first model up is in the colours of Delta Airlines. It's N348 November Bravo, and this one is in the revised... It's not really a revised livery, that's perhaps a stretch. But basically it appears that Delta have increased the size of the main title somewhat, at least on the A319s. Don't think they've done it on anything else as of yet. It does look a little bit better than the smaller titles. Now, NG have released Delta A319s previously in April 24, October 23, and they had the small titles. They look pretty good, and this one I'm sure will be very good as well. It's not a massive scheme difference, is it? Let's be honest. And kind of, you know, see a lot of Delta Airlines releases. So I'm going to put this one into Workhorse, though I imagine this will be pretty popular. Next up is Tibet Airlines. So we're off to China. And this one is also an A319. This one's got sharklets and is wearing a really colourful scheme, which I can't pronounce the name of. I can't say it. It doesn't matter. I'm not entirely sure what it represents, to be honest. But it does look very colourful, and you've got a variety of dancing figures on the aircraft. I've seen better special schemes, and I have to say the Tibet Airlines base livery is really, really nice. Tibet Airlines is definitely a carrier which I do collect. And this one is quite nice. This is the 11th Tibet release, so the carrier's got a little bit of exposure in the scale. I'll be getting this one. Looks really good. Put this one up into High Flyer. I minded there are so many special liveries, and I minded to put most of them into High Flyer, to be honest, because I really prefer standard schemes, and there are lots of standard liveries out there that haven't been made, and we're getting a lot of special schemes, and not all of them are particularly delightful. And to illustrate that, we've got an American special scheme up next. This one's an A320. It's a JetBlue Dunkin' Donuts livery on N643 Juliet Bravo. I guess you could argue this isn't an atrocious livery, but I have to say that one of the things I like about most Chinese special schemes is that they tend to not just be basic adverts for brands like Dunkin' Donuts. They tend to be focusing on some kind of cultural aspect or a sports event or something like that, which tend to produce nicer schemes. Yeah, this one, I'm not loving it. But I'm sure that lots of people will be loving it, especially JetBlue collectors. Now, this has been announced by JC Wings. You may recall they announced this back in June. Obviously, things never going to see the light of day from JC Wings for months and months and months. So this one is the one to get, and the mold is better as well. So we're going to put this one up into High Flyer as well, I think, even though I can't say I'm loving that livery. Now, having said that, about the advertising, the next one up is a special scheme. We're into A321s, and this one is representing Legoland Shanghai, I believe, and this one is very Lego-y and very yellow. I can't say it's the most beautiful special scheme either. This is not a great example of Chinese special schemes, but it is quite fun if you're into Lego. Now, I almost have to get it because I do collect Chinese airliners, and I will be collecting this one. The aircraft is B9957. Yeah, I guess it's fun. It's certainly very colourful. It's kind of in the same space as the Dunkin' Donuts scheme, I have to say, and there are better special schemes coming up in this release set. Again, I'm going to put this one in the High Flyer. Now, this one actually comes in two versions because they're going to have an Ultimate Collection version of it as well, so I'll put that one down into Workhorse. But the concept of Ultimate Collection and normal releases doesn't bother me. I think that makes sense for people who want to buy more or buy nicer packaging, so that's all fine. Okay, model number 6, and we're into a slew of Hawaiians because this month, Hawaiian and Xiamen Airlines and Sichuan Airlines are the three big airlines this month, and there's quite a few releases for each of those. So we've got a trio of Hawaiian A321 Neos now. Hardly underrepresented in the scale, but the majority of the releases have been from either Aero Classics, and even though their base A321 should be good, the finishes are not great. They don't have aerials, the gear are a bit crap, so on and so forth. And the others are from Gemini, which have the aerials and the rolling gear, but have a not particularly good mould. So you've got a selection of 6 or 7 pretty ordinary previous Hawaiian A321s that have been made, and none from NG models. This one, or these three, sorry, have 2 standard scheme aircraft, N228HA and N215HA, and they will be better than everything that's come before. They are also releasing N216HA, the Lilo and Stitch scheme, which has also been announced by Phoenix. So this one, obviously, again, will be better than that. It is tempting to... Yeah, actually, it's tempting to put one of these standard scheme Hawaiians into Workhorse, but I'm going to put the other one up into Supersonic. This is what I mean. It's a standard scheme. Surely people want standard schemes more than specials, and it hasn't been made as well before, and certainly will easily beat that Gemini version. I'm going to put the Lilo Stitch one up in the High Flyer as well. I think that'll be distinctly better than the Phoenix release. Next A321 is also a model that's been announced by somebody else, in this case JC Wings, as a future release last month, I think. And this one is PH Yankee Hotel Delta, the Transavia Retro Colours. This, at least, is a really cool scheme for a special livery. Retro schemes almost always look excellent, and this Transavia Retro looks pretty great. So this one, really very nice. I haven't got any problems putting this one up into Supersonic. I think this one's going to be superb. And we round off our A321s with a Xiamen Airlines Neo, the first of many Xiamen Airlines this month. And this one, B32 Golf Niner, is the first aircraft delivered from China for Xiamen from their Tianjin finishing line. But it doesn't have anything like that on the aircraft. It just is a standard looking Xiamen A321. And there have been quite a few of these recently. In fact, HYJ Wings made one just in June. And there have been several others that have been made by JC on their rubbish mould and NG on their perfectly good mould. So this one is very much a Workhorse product. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us out of the A320 family aircraft and into a selection of A330s. And we begin that selection of A330s with another pair of Hawaiian Airlines. We've got N379 Hotel Alpha in the standard scheme. We've got N378 Hotel Alpha in the Lilo and Stitch colours. It's not the first time, unlike the A321, it's not the first time that NG has made a Hawaiian A330, sorry. They made N389 Hotel Alpha back in May 2020, so that's a long time ago. Since then, there have been a lot of releases in between, or 3 or 4, because we've had Gemini have made 2, Phoenix have made 1. And the most recent one was actually only announced in January from Gemini. But, you know, the reality of the situation is that the JC Wings mold that Gemini use, not very good for an A330, especially its tail down stance. The undercarriage is the biggest issue for me. And the Phoenix one's perfectly decent, but it's not spectacular. Both of these should be better than the competition, and they both should be really nice. So I'm going to put both these up into high flyer. The reason I'm putting in supersonic is because there are a lot of these floating around already, and even NG have made one of the standard schemes. The next 4 A330s are Series 200s, all in the colours of Sichuan Airlines. The first 2 are in their standard scheme, or rather classic looking Chinese scheme. We've got B8332 and B6535. Now you might think these are really boring, but the reality is if you're a Chinese collector like I am, then you've rather been starved of Sichuan A330s, and the only examples that exist in this livery date from 2010, a Phoenix example that I own already, and from 2013, an Aero Classics one. So it's been a long time since we've seen a Sichuan A330 in the standard scheme. And these ones should be super nice. I'm quite looking forward to be able to get one of these. So I'm going to put one of these up into supersonic because it is a model that's been needing to get remade. And I'll put the other one down into workhorse. The other pair feature the World Games Chengdu 2025 livery, which I mentioned in a couple of months ago in the JC Wings video, because they've also announced this as one of their future releases. This is actually a really nice special scheme, a good example of these kind of games type schemes that China does a lot, where they look really nice. They're only slightly marred by having some very cartoony characters on the front, their mascots, but they're inoffensive, and it's a better special scheme than the Dunkin' Donuts or the Legoland, in my opinion. I'm going to put one of these also up into supersonic, and I will be acquiring one, and I'll put the other one again into workhorse. And that concludes our A330s, and leaves us with just a single Airbus left, an A350-1000, another JAL release, JA04 Whiskey Juliet. NG have now made 5 JAL A350-1000s, and 3 of them have been in this base livery without anything on them. 2 have got the big titles for A350-1000s. Not interesting, rubbish livery. I'll put it in a workhorse, but I could, to be honest, I could gas guzzle that one. It's not exciting at all. Next, we've got an insane number of Xiamen Airlines 737s. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. That's 1/4 of this month's releases are Xiamen 737s. This isn't all bad. Xiamen Airlines has had a lot of quite ordinary releases in the past, often on Phoenix molds for their 737s, and so there's definitely room for more of these. And the first 2 are Series 700s, wearing different variants of the previous livery, and these 2 are really very worthy in my opinion, because as I say, the only releases previously in these kind of schemes have been Phoenix, and they don't look very good. I've got a couple of cockpit window printing, is pretty shocking. But these 2 look very nice. So we've got B2998 wearing the straight cheat line version, no winglet, sorry. And we've got B5218, which has the slightly curvy version of the cheat line. I think both of these are excellent. I'm going to get both of these. I'm going to put them both up into supersonic. When you get to the Series 800s, there's a little more competition out there, and there have been quite a lot of these made now. In fact, with all of these added on, there have been over 30 Xiamen 737-800s, but there's quite a lot of special schemes. First one up is B5146, wearing what they're calling the interim colours, which is an even curvier version of the old scheme. This has been released previously, but only on a Panda mould, an old Panda mould. I own that model, and it's good to see some old scheme Xiamen released. I'm going to put that one up into high flyer. Next, we've got the standard current scheme, B5653. There have been quite a few of these recently. For example, Aero Polaris has made one. There was one I think came from C Models as well, perhaps. So there have been a couple of these in recent times. I'm just going to put that one into workhorse. Then we've got a couple of Sky Team colours, B5159 and B5633. Now, B5633 has even been made by NG before. So these two really just filling up the shelves, not really needed. They're just, I guess they probably sell in China, but there's nothing exciting about that. So I'm going to put those two down into gas guzzler. And then there's B5688, which has got this rather nice 100th aircraft for Xiamen livery on it. Which would be more exciting if it hadn't just been released by C Models a couple of months ago, basically. And I've acquired that C Models version, certainly don't need this one in addition. So I'm going to put that one down in the workhorse. And the next Xiamen is B5656. This one's wearing the Beijing Daxing scheme. Again, this model has been released multiple times. It's been announced by Z2 not too long ago. It's been, I think, announced also on a new mold by HX Models. It's been released by NG. I think it may have also been made by JC Wings historically too. So there's quite a few versions of this floating around. Don't need another one. I'll stick that one down in the gas guzzler. And our last 777-800 for Xiamen is B7178. This one has another special scheme, but it's very small special scheme. It's got small titles that say that it's basically the 8,888 737 on it. 8 is obviously a big number in China. So this one has been made previously, but only by Panda on their old mold. Tempting to get this one. Put that one up into high flyer. But we're not completely out of Xiamen yet. There's still another pair to discuss. These two are MAX 8s. Again, not particularly exciting because there have been quite a few MAX 8 releases in recent times, and mostly from NG, but also from JC Wings and Phoenix as well. First one up is B1136, which is a 200th Boeing aircraft, or sorry, 2000th Boeing aircraft for China. This one, I believe, has again already been made before, even by NG, so that one can go down in to gas guzzler, and I think I might put the other one down in gas guzzler as well. I mean, there have been quite a few MAX 8s. The other one is B225 Foxtrot. Again, it's the first one I think delivered from their Chinese finishing plant, but it's not exciting. It's nothing on the aircraft to suggest that it is that aircraft. Yeah, just gas guzzle that. Okay, so we're through the Xiamen Airlines, and we're out the other side to a pair of 747-400s. But this is where their wishlist system is kind of coming a cropper. These are both wishes, I believe, from the wishlist system, but it's taken them long enough to get out and they've been signalled in advance, and everyone else has made these models in them between times. They've been announced by JC Wings, but obviously not released yet. They've been released by HX Models, and they've been released by Apollo as well. So by the time you get to the NG versions, it's like, do we need another one? Probably not. And in fact, you get two because they're releasing both 9V SPK and 9V SPL. I would have got the HX releases if I was interested in these. I'm not completely sold on the NG 747-400, and these two aren't interesting me that much. I mean, NG are really boring me with their 747 selections, and they're not releasing many of them either. So I'm just put these two into workhorse. Now, Gemini Jets just announced the Pan Am Criterion Travel 757, which actually is nice and Air aircraft, TFFIC. And as I said at the time during that video, just wait for the NG version, which they'd already announced, but hadn't actually given a month for the announcement. Oh, they have now, because here it is. So we've got that aircraft coming out in this set. It will be better than the Gemini. Everything I said about the scheme being inauthentic and lazy still applies, but the mold is going to be much, much better. So I'm going to put that one up into high flyer. Okay, outside of Boeing territory, there's not a lot going on with the rest of the release set here. NG seems to have completely forgotten that they own MDAs and TriStars and TU-154s and TU-204s because they don't release many of them, if any. And so what we've got are a selection of Chinese models. First up, we've got a pair of what is now monikered the C909, previously the ARJ21, and these are both China Southern aircraft, B658 Kilo, B658 Zulu. They've made China Southern ARJs before, but this version has the C909 written on it. It's not really a big enough difference, even for a CZ collector like myself. I'm just going to put those two into workhorse. Then we've got a C919 and a C909 in Comac house colours, which appear to be this line of NG light, models where you get not even getting undercarriage, and they just seem to be super light. I haven't seen NG talk about these. They just seem to be occasionally announcing these models, which must be for the very cheapest end of the market. I'm just going to slap those down into gas guzzler. And then we've got a pair of Y20 Kung Pengs in the People's Liberation Army Air Force colours, both of which represent air visits. One to the first visit to Europe, and the second one, the Air Power 2022 Air Show. There have been quite a few of these. They almost all look exactly the same. I'm sure they do fine on the Chinese market, and the models are nice enough, but there's nothing exciting there for us. So I'm going to workhorse the pair of those. That is 37 models discussed. There are just 3 others. These are all NG light releases of models that have been made already elsewhere. We've got the Shanghai Museum China Eastern 777. We've got the new colours Korean Air. We've got an Eva Air Candy Jet 777. None of those are interesting. They're all NG lights. They've all been made before. I'm just going to gas guzzle those 3. And breathe. That is 40 NG models releases ranked in this video. So in summary, it's a big month for NG, but as is pretty much always the case nowadays, you could easily half this reset and lose nothing. There's a decent amount of models that don't need to be made. There's a lot of duplicates, but there is still a core of decent models here. And in fact, we're getting a reasonable number of what I consider to be supersonics and a good number of what I consider to be high flyers. And, for all those American collectors who are upset that NG aren't releasing enough Americans, well, in this set, there's 7 or 8 American releases, and they're solid, good US releases, albeit a lot of special schemes. If Gemini had released those 7 or 8, people would be pretty happy, so I don't think you'll be too upset. Once again, if you're a collector of anything but American or Chinese models, you've got reason to complain because you're not getting much here at all, just that Transavia. Now, NG are pre-announcing a lot of models nowadays before their official announcements, and I can't say the diversity I'm seeing is particularly exciting me either. I don't think there's a single TriStar. I don't think there's any MDAs either. I don't think there's any Tupolevs, and instead you're getting a lot of really modern Airbus and Boeing. So, they're not particularly exciting me with their release sets. If I didn't collect Chinese airliners, there'd be nothing in this set for me. But because I do collect Chinese airliners, this set actually contains quite a lot of models that I'm interested in getting: Tibet, Jinao, a couple of those Xiamens, Sichuans. So there are models here for me to purchase, but only because I collect Chinese airliners. If you collect anything even vaguely classic, like before 2010, and there's very little in the set for you, if anything. So, yeah, what can you do? It's not great, but there's still some very nice models being made. That is it for this month's look at the NG releases. I don't expect NG's behaviour to change this year. I expect them to keep on doing what they're doing, judging by the future releases that they've kind of suggested they will be making, which is a shame, but hopefully when things, hopefully stabilise somewhat economically, then maybe they'll get back to a more diverse set of releases. Hard to say. I guess no one can see the future. Okay, guys. Well, hopefully there's something in this set for you, and I will see you in the next video. Stay tuned to the channel, and it's goodbye from me for now. Goodbye.